Hello and welcome to Beyond Bits. It's a podcast where we interview alumni from various walks of the world. I am Abhinaya and this is Jitisha. We will be your hosts for the day.
Our guest today is Sujay Jain, a senior software engineer currently at Netflix in San Francisco. Mr. Sujay Jain graduated from BITS Pilani in 2006, went on to earn his master's from Carnegie Mellon, and has since worked in tech giants like Microsoft, Facebook, and now Netflix, where he's been building secure, scalable systems for over 3 years.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sujay, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We'll be kicking things off with few rapid fire questions. So these are basically some one-word icebreaker questions to help lighten up the mood a little bit.
Got it. I'm
Okay.
I'm glad to be here. Just want to know, are you guys gonna record this or
Yes.
video is gonna be okay?
Yes.
Is it already being recorded?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. Sorry.
Okay. So a bit memory that still randomly makes you smile.
Oh, so I was in the Goa campus, right? So we used to. Oh, there's so many memories, but I think every evening after dinner we would take a walk around the campus and go to Monjani's, which was near the library, to grab chai, and basically those walks would just become extremely long, um, and then we would end up in one of our batchmates' rooms and watch Friends or watch some random movie or watch something completely that was not planned. I think those are some fun memories, but there's so many. Oh my god, there's just a lot.
A piece of advice that's actually stayed with you.
You mean from the BITS days? Yeah, I think it's when I was in BITS, one unique thing was that attendance did not matter as much. Like there was not a lot of stress on attending the classes because our then vice chancellor used to say that even if BITSians are not attending classes, they're doing something productive, they're doing something useful. Maybe they're working on some projects, right? And I think that just that flexibility and that focus of that idea of using your time in the best way possible, and making that judgment call whether going to the class to attend a lecture is the best use of your time at that point in that situation, or you have something else like a project or a side project going on, or even like going to the beach, whatever it is. I think that flexibility and honoring that has stayed with me, and that's how I kind of decide how I do things.
Okay. Your favorite spot on campus?
Hmm. Favorite spot on campus. I would say right outside the library, the lawns outside the
Mm.
library, would be my favorite spot.
Mm. One thing you miss most about college?
Oh, just the lack of responsibility, right? Like, and just the free will. You all of your actions have consequences that are limited to just you. You're not impacting anyone else, and you fully own those the decisions that you're making. I think it's extremely liberating, as well as empowering, as well as scary sometimes. So I think there's just a lot of appetite for risk that's possible then, which may not be possible as you move forward in life, or when you're working for a company, for example.
Okay, so favorite fest, waves, quark, or spree?
Oh, waves, I love waves. Yeah.
One word to describe your journey from bits to Netflix,
One word. Oh,
or a
that.
sentence, whichever works.
um I mean, I maybe it's a combination of luck and perseverance. I wouldn't put it all on my hard work. I do think it's a lot of like being at the right place at the right time as well. So it's a combination of both.
Got it. Okay, now let's move on to the main part and talk about your path, your work, and what students can learn from it. So you moved from BITS to Carnegie Mellon. It's very impressive. So how was your academic culture and like how did you adapt to it?
Yeah, you mean in at CMU at Carnegie Mellon
Mm.
or at BITS? Okay. Um, so it was very rigorous. I think compared to the undergrad that we did at BITS, it was BITS was it was very like free flowing in some sense, and you know, of course we did a lot of like courses which are not necessarily computer science. I did computer science at BITS, but we really got into the core CS courses in the third year. Right before that, it was mechanical and thermodynamics and stuff like that. I think Carnegie Mellon was like a very condensed 2 year course, and it was definitely a lot more intense, meaning that there were assignments, pretty solid, like pretty massive assignments, and with deadlines pretty much every week. So I felt like I was just working a lot more, doing a lot more hands-on coding as well. um, when I was at CMU, and doing this for multiple classes that you're taking, it did feel a lot more busy, but also a lot. I think I learned a lot more as well at CMU, just pure computer science. I think at BITS, what I did was I built the relationships, and um, like learning how to learn some of those things is what BITS taught me a lot more. But then at CMU, it was a lot more core computer science and getting your hands dirty, and getting through the projects and assignments in time. Um, so I think that was one. The other thing is, I don't know how it is at BITS right now, but we at CMU at least, and the most masters, most US programs, um, they don't really have a fixed course structure. So you pretty much have to pick and choose, what you want to study, what courses are available, what classes are free, what professors are available doing classes at that time. So you kind of have to have a sense of where the industry is heading, as well as what you are interested in and what professors are available this semester and which professors do you want to study with, and stuff like that. So it's a lot more sort of, there's a lot more decisions to be made, and because it's just a 2 year program, or sometimes 1.5 year program in other universities, and you pretty much are only doing like 3 or 4 courses a semester. It's you kind of have to, every course holds a lot of value, so you have to make that decision pretty carefully, and that kind of shapes up pretty much the next 4 to 5 years of where you might end up in the industry.
For students looking to explore system roles, what would you say is the best way to build credibility and skill in this space? Research, open source, or internships?
Mm. It depends on where you're at in the journey. I think all three options are great, right? And if you have one already, then I would maybe try to build the profile more on the other option. Between these three, I feel like open source has the widest impact, uh, because it's visible across the world, right? You don't have to publish your resume anywhere or submit your resume to a company for them to know that you're working on, let's say, Apache Spark or Flink or any of the open source projects. So I think open source is incredible if you can get into it, and if you pick a project that has high impact, meaning, I'd personally pick a project which, of course, it should align with your interest, but also something that's being actively worked on. And if bigger companies are using these projects, then you would get noticed, right? And it also shows that you're basically making changes to a system which is being relied upon by a lot of big companies. So, but it's also hard to get into. Open source is significant amount of investment, and then there's a lot of open source projects. You got to pick and choose like where you invest your time in. So I would say open source is pretty great. Research and internship, both are great, depends on where your interests lie, right? If you do want to head into like the more sort of academic or PhD space, I think research is great. Even to even rule out whether you want to go into um, academics or not, I think research is still great then, because you at least know, maybe maybe this is not what you want to do. um, internships are really good. I think in general, getting, if being in the industry is one of the goals that someone has, then internships do give you a very good opportunity to understand what that's like, even to make a decision of, hey, do I want to go do a master's or not, or do I want to go do a job directly. I think getting that experience of the industry, working in a company, can help answer some of those questions for you, and then it allows you to just make a better decision. So yeah, I would say all three are great, and if given an opportunity, try all three, right? But then, depending on if you already know where you want to go, or if you have a limited amount of time that you can spend, then maybe focusing on one is better than spreading yourself too thin and just trying everything.
Has the Bitstag or the alumni network ever played like a role in your career, like in grad school entry or referrals to a big firm?
Yeah, I think the bits tag is extremely powerful in India for sure. Even here in the US, it's a great way to connect. Like, because our alumni community is so close knit, there's always like bitsa events that are happening. It's an instant connection. Basically, if you see a bitsian, it's a very common thing that you can bond on. So it's really good from that point of view. It can get your foot in the door in a lot of places. And once you build that connection, I think people would be willing to refer you and stuff like that. I have not personally used that very much, so I don't know how much it helps beyond, let's say, getting a referral to a company or building these connections. Building this network. This network can be utilized a lot at different stages in life. Like, when you're, let's say, if you're starting a company and you're looking for co-founders, and then you remember, oh, at this Bitsa meet, I met somebody who's working on this different in this similar field. Maybe that's a person that I could reach out to, or looking through the network. So I think there are different situations in which it can help. But the advantages are usually these intangible. It gives you the initial, the whatever it is, like the quick connection can be established by the bits uh, tag and the bits community, especially if there's a bitsian on the other side. But beyond that, I think then after that, it's really up to you. The bits tag won't help after that, but it does help you get started for sure.
You've navigated roles at Microsoft Azure, Facebook, and now Netflix in San Francisco. What were the most defining challenges during these transitions? And how did you adapt your mindset and skills there?
Yeah, lot of challenges, lot of learnings as well. Right, I think all of these, like my first company, like my first team, starting going from college, like in college you're working on pretty like small scale you're working on complex projects, but it's, even if you break things, it's just your project that's breaking. No one is really depending on it, right? You lose the grades, maybe you lose some marks, but that's about it. However, like my first team was Microsoft Azure, which is a massive cloud offering from Microsoft, right? Millions and millions of customers, a lot of Fortune 500 companies relying on it. And I think one of my first learnings was just simply the cost of getting things wrong, right? So uh, basically, and every step is a learning, right? Like you first understand how to interact with such a complex system and all the procedures that are in place for you to even check in, commit your code, and roll your code out to the world. But also, like the mistakes and the cost of the mistakes, because then there are these, it's the company's reputation at line, right? Which is a lot bigger than, let's say, our own project going wrong. So I think that was, I would say, my first learning right out of the industry. And then, of course, you learn technical stuff as well, right? You grow in technical, the amount of technical complexity of the projects. And I would say that most Bitsians, you as you grow in your career, you would be able to handle the technical complexity for sure. I don't see people struggle with the technical aspects of projects. To be honest, I think what starts happening as you grow in your roles is more the people aspect, right? Like you then have to align your decisions, your projects, um, with more and more teams, with more and more stakeholders, with more and more sort of people who may have opinions, but still stay laser focused on the deliverables that exist. A lot of those, as you grow through the software engineering like ladder, those skills become more and more important. So one piece is actually building the software, testing it, rolling it out, and stuff like that. I would say that just as you spend time in the industry, it'll happen. The other aspect is really just being crisp and clear in your communication, being able to align across different teams, being able to sort of share your opinion and take others' opinion, take the feedback, understand what's important, what's not, what it needs to be acted on, and what's just maybe noise, right? So yeah, those have been some of my learnings. Working through just the impact of the work that's being done, um, working through the technical complexity of the projects, right? Of course, there's deadlines, and you work through all of that. And then I would say the the eventual thing is you go beyond the technical complexity and go more into like the actual sort of delivering a project or delivering a big feature for these big companies. It involves so much more than just the technical stuff. And I think eventually everybody then starts to sort of starts taking up a lot of your time.
So, if you could go back to your final year in bits, what would you do differently?
So my final year of bits, I think what I did was the first semester I was on campus, um, and the second semester I did my internship. And I think my fourth year first sem, I kept it pretty light. I don't remember now exactly, but I did keep it pretty light. Honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I think my memories, you know, from bits are I just wish, if I had more time, I would just take more time and be there, right? So um, a lot of the decisions that we make in those times are two-way doors. Those decisions are not gonna have a significant impact on your life, and most things are kind of reversible. So I would just focus on making sure that you're growing, making sure that you're having fun, right? It's also the last semester of being in such a beautiful campus, being with your friends. So just maximizing that time, building that network. Actually, maybe the one takeaway that I have from bits is just the immediate, like my batchmates. And this also goes back to your bits tag question, right? Bitsians, where I find the most value with bits and bitsians is my immediate batch. I think within our batch we are still so strongly bonded. And then if I look at people from my batch, they're across all different companies, in all different roles, and that's just such a strong network. So if there's one thing that you can take away from your bits journey, is that build those strong friendships, build those strong connections, keep those connections going, because 10 years, 15 years down the line, everybody would be doing they would be in much very very strong positions in various different companies. And then if if you need help, or if you're starting something new and looking for like strong achievers, and or the who's who of different companies or different industries, I think there'll be people from your own batch who you could reach out to. um, but yeah, coming back to what would I have done differently, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Just I remember having a lot of fun. I remember spending a lot of time with my friends. I remember spending a lot of time on the beach in the last semester. Um, so I would just do that. I don't remember whether I had an offer. I didn't have an offer. I did have the PS, the internship coming in the second semester. So I think I was pretty relaxed because I knew I was going somewhere. So yeah, focus on that definitely. Like make sure your next step is always figured out. Once you figure out the next step, then go back and either work on your projects or spend time with friends, whatever it is. But I wouldn't change much, and I think yeah, a lot of these decisions, even if I did things differently, maybe in the fourth year, I don't see it making a massive impact in my life.
Now at Netflix, you're contributing to highly dynamic streaming infrastructure. What core competencies beyond coding do you think big tech companies will increasingly value as AI reshapes engineering roles?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So I do think, like, it kind of goes back to my earlier point. I do think the technical complexity of work, I mean, I don't see people struggle with that most. I think most people are able to get a handle on it, right? And with AI, that only becomes easier now. So, you a lot of the coding, a lot of the designing or brainstorming or debugging can be taken care of by AI. So the other things become more important, and the other things in my mind are the people aspect of working in tech companies. So or even like the product aspect. So I would say the number one thing would be just having a product mindset, right? Sometimes um, there's two ways you can work in a company. You can go wide, you can get a breadth of knowledge of different areas that your team and surrounding teams work on, and just have a high level overview of how every piece functions. And then once in a while you will go deep into specific areas for the projects that you're executing. But um, but you have a very good understanding of where that organization as a whole is heading, uh, technically, as well as tie it to the business needs, right? And the other thing is, you go super deep into a particular area and you're working on this specific piece, solving some super critical, difficult technical problems, but you're kind of removed from how this really impacts the company, or what is the overarching goal that we're trying to achieve. I think with my view is that as we move forward, the former type of engineering becomes more and more valuable, where you have a breadth of knowledge, right? And you are able to sort of see where how the product that you're working on evolves. Like, even if the product is like an infra platform, that everything at the end of the day can be viewed as a project or a product. And so having that product mindset, like basically thinking about, okay, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, how should we solve this problem, what are the technical and the non-technical aspects involved, and then maybe also working with the users. Are there users who are going to be interacting with this? How should this be designed and executed in a way that we're not waiting like 6 months to finish something, make it perfect, and only then release it, but do it in an iterative way. So some product thinking, I think, is going to be extremely useful. And then the other aspect would be just being able to communicate clearly and effectively. In large organizations, I think that becomes a pretty critical thing, and it's also a big overhead, right? So a lot of decisions are made on documents. So being able to write your thoughts very clearly, explain it to someone who may not be super familiar with the technical details of the stuff, is extremely important. And then being able to work with people, right? So being able to agree to disagree, being able to have hard conversations, hard technical conversations mostly, um, and find alignment, find common ground, even when there may be sort of opposing interests. Um, so kind of working through some of these, I would say the non-technical challenges is also super critical.
So, with streaming platforms evolving, how does Netflix stay innovative with the tech front, not just the content?
So when you say streaming platform, do you mean like stream processing or the movie streaming
This
platform?
movie streaming platforms.
Okay, and what was the question again? How does Netflix stay?
They're innovative with the tech front, not just the content.
I see, got it. Um, yeah, it's. I think it's a constant. I would say Netflix is great in a sense because we were always a very strong technical company. Besides being a content company, right? So we always had that focus of we took pride in us being extremely solid in our technical foundations. And if you see a lot of very successful open source projects have come out of Netflix, Hystrix, Spinnaker, Apache Iceberg. Like this, so there's that culture of innovation in the company that's always been there, and I think that I would say is that mindset is what keeps us ahead. So not just we're always trying to kind of stay ahead of the curve, and trying to basically innovate from the ground up. So innovating in our data streaming platforms or data warehouse platforms or our infrastructure platforms or our services, because this any innovation that happens there will eventually bubble up to innovation in the product as well, and it'll make experience better for our users. So I would say I think it's very much a mindset, right? Like having that innovation mindset, hiring people who are passionate about innovation as well, and like strong engineers, right? Like if you hire the best people, then I think automatically things will sort of, they will bring in this culture and they would move things forward. I would say that's number one. And then of course there are definitely areas where, if we realize that we have to expand in a particular area, then we will make very conscious investments in that specific area as well. So there's always a little bit of that too, where we are always, trying to understand where the industry is headed, or where the technology is headed, and trying to uh, constantly up level ourselves. So I would say it's a mix of both, and you need both. Otherwise it would always be catching up, right?
BITS has a vibrant student culture, clubs, fests, and many more. Were you part of any activities or groups outside academics that influence how you work or lead today?
Yeah, a lot. I think I participated a lot in these events, in the organization of these events, of these fests, and just working with all of these different people, working on tight deadlines, working with, you know figuring out who's coming to these events, figuring out how the accommodation needs to be figured out, or the sponsorship, or working in the placement cell. I think, like, a large part of what I took away from bits were these skills. um because like I said, I think academics was much stronger at Carnegie Mellon. I did a lot more academics there, which is just natural as well because it's a master's degree. So I think I apply a lot of that teamwork, a lot of that curiosity, a lot of that uh, you know looking at things in a critical manner and understanding what needs to be prioritized and what doesn't. What's noise and what's signal. um all of that, I think those were the foundations that were built during bits, on which of course I've improved over time as I've worked in the industry as well. But participating in organizing all these things, or participating in all of these events, um, I would say has been some of the most critical sort of growth that happened to me during bits, and something that I've still sort of carried with me over time, and even even like the friendships that I built back then are still very, very relevant.
So, what led to the thought that this is what you wanted to do long term? Like, was it a specific event or just something you suddenly decided?
So the question is about. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So, like, what event led to the thought that this is what you wanted to do long term, like work at Netflix, like
I see.
more
I see.
specifically?
Yeah. Are you asking more about what event in bits led to this, or
No,
just
in
generally
general.
when
In general.
okay. Um, I think it's just you take a step and then you take the next step and then you take the next step. I think it's been like that, as opposed to having a specific goal in mind. I think I kind of followed, the opportunities that came along, and also followed my interests and followed where the industry is heading. And I think one thing led to another. So um, I wouldn't say that I set out with a goal of working at Netflix or at Meta, but I did set out with a goal of being a strong engineer, somebody who builds value as well as delivers impact, right? And that sort of I was always curious as well about where the industry is heading, um, and all the innovations that were happening. So I would say that kind of led me to sort of finding the first job. Even in the first job, of course, you would have a lot of choices when you're making these decisions. Like, I remember I had a few offers when I was leaving Carnegie Mellon, and even within Microsoft, I had two offers. I had one from Azure, which was up and coming at that time. Cloud was very, very new uh, back then, and it was growing. And the other was a very stable business, which was, I think Microsoft Dynamics, or something in the office space, which was a very strong, stable business for Microsoft. But I went with Azure because one, there was a lot more sort of growth that was happening. I could see that this is like the new thing in the industry, and being part of that would allow me to also learn and grow rapidly. And I think that turned out to be a great decision, because then I was working with such massive scale systems that then shaped sort of the next step that I took, and the next step that I took. So yeah, I think it's yeah. There are all these decision points in life, right? Again, most of these are two-way doors, so it's not extremely significant if I chose one or the other. Um, but I do think um, choosing something that maybe I didn't choose stability. I chose more sort of personal growth and challenging role, and something that will allow me to grow more, is what helped me, I think, at that point.
What's one underrated skill that helped you succeed across these different company cultures?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would say, I don't know if this is specifically it, but I would say I'm very curious. I think curiosity has always helped, because I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I try to really understand. If I get involved in something, I try and build a good understanding of what's being done, why it's being done, do I understand the reasoning behind it or not. And I think until I get to that level of understanding, I am constantly trying to get answers that gets me to that level of understanding. And I think that that has always helped me sort of um, get to a place where then I feel comfortable making decisions and driving the direction of of the product or the project. So I would say curiosity has helped. I think initiative is another one, like just not waiting for things to happen, but seeing opportunities even if they're not super clear, um, and sort of taking initiative to, either it may be like proposing a new direction that we should go in, or proposing a new strategic initiative, making a case for things, and then communicating and aligning with the rest of the team, rest of the org, rest of the stakeholders has also helped me quite a bit. Um, and finally, I would just say collaboration. I think I'm the kind of person who I rely heavily on my team also to sort of deliver impact generally, but I also help them quite a bit. So it's always a very the way I look at things is if my team succeeds is when I succeed, and if I succeed, my team succeeds. So I think that has also always helped me because then we are invested in each other's success and we're invested in the company's success. So yeah, I would say those are the two or three things that sort of come to mind.
Your journey has spanned both product and infrastructure engineering. Looking back, were there any moments early in your career, perhaps even at BITS, that shaped your approach to solving large scale technical problems?
Um, I would say no specific event, but it's been a learning. It's been a constant learning, I would say. You kind of I kind of learned from my first role. Whatever I learned from my first role, I applied in my second role, and from the second role into the third role, and so on and so forth. So I would say it's a constant sort of growth always. um, and of course there are things that there are successes as well as there are failures, right? And you learn a lot from failures as well. So everything has kind of shaped into how I think today, and this experience then really start solidifying. You start discovering patterns, you start understanding yourself well as well. Even I definitely have flaws, right? I'm not perfect. But I do understand that okay, this is my style of doing things. And once you're self-aware enough to know that okay, maybe I'm over aggressive, or maybe I'm risk averse at times. You can on depending on the criticality of the work that you're doing, you can also self correct if you're self aware. um so was your question if there was a specific event that kind of shaped my thinking? Then it's
Um, any moment or any incident, anything in general.
yeah. Yeah, I think I like in my first in really my first role at Microsoft, I remember introducing a bug. Like I was doing well, and I really owned like an area in the product, an Azure service, which was pretty big for someone just so young and new to the industry. And I was pretty aggressive in pushing code and making changes. And I remember that I introduced like a bug in the billing system, which ended up charging a few customers extra money. And again, like at when there's a company name behind it, when there's a brand behind it, such things can be extremely um, costly, not in terms of the money, but just in terms of the brand damage. So we kind of like that was my first sort of um, in our careers, all of us have made blunders. We've introduced bugs, we've broken things, but that was the first time when I did it, and I think that um, just shaped uh, how I think about rolling out things now. Just being just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, being extra careful, because there's always, and then also having a sense of what situations need thorough whatever it is, testing, validation, slow rollouts, whereas what situations you just take the risk. Sometimes it's okay to just take the risk, and because the impact is super limited, like it's not as big. So making those judgment calls. So I would say that was the time that at least I understood what it means to like sort of make changes that may not land as well. And then when you're part of a big organization, and then how do you respond in such situations? Like the immediate thing is you control the damage, you mitigate the impact, and then you reach out in very all transparency to the users, where they've been built incorrectly, and then work with them to kind of fix the problem, to kind of rebuild the trust in the brand. I think learning all of that was not really just a technical. Sure, there was some technical aspect of it. Yes, better validation, slower rollout, things like that. But then there was also non a lot of non-technical aspects that I learned as part of that incident. So, and there have been a lot of such incidents since then as well.
So, do you believe that networking is really important, or one can just survive in the industry with just their resume?
Yeah, networking is extremely important. Um, Yeah, there's two kinds of networking. There's networking which is just connecting on LinkedIn and staying connected. Um, I think that I don't know how important that is, but then actually building connections, which means that maybe going to different kinds of meetups, different events, hackathons, like participating in projects, working alongside people on similar problems, that kind of networking where you either working together or you're building a connection that's deeper than just a LinkedIn message, or like a maybe even like a 5 minute chat. That kind of networking can be extremely powerful. And yeah, I would say a lot of it is luck as well. Sometimes you submit the resume at the right time and it has the right keywords. Of course, that can also get you lucky, and a lot of networking might not. So I wouldn't downplay it. I think a lot of people who are successful are also like, they're also fortunate, which I think of myself as well. But yes, I would say networking is pretty great, but building deeper sort of connections while networking.
Thank you so much, sir, for all your keen insights. What would be your final thoughts or advice for the students from today's podcast?
Yeah. So who am I addressing? Is this for the current bits batch,
Yeah,
or
the current
Yeah.
students.
all 4 years, all 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What would be my advice? Yeah, I'll just share a few thoughts. Not fully well formed, but I think the first and foremost is this time is never going to come back. The 4 years of college, the 5 years of college that you're spending in bits, this would probably be your fondest, might just be your fondest memory uh, throughout your entire life, or one of your fondest memories. So definitely cherish this time. um, Take things seriously, but don't take them too seriously either. Make sure you're building the right connections, make sure you're building great friendships, make sure you're participating in cultural events, and uh, participating in hackathons. Failing, don't be afraid. I guess that would be one advice that just came through as I'm thinking out loud. Like, don't be afraid to fail. I mean, we all say that failures are stepping stone to success, and it's extremely very true. Sometimes we just become so scared of failure that we don't take risks. But now is the time to take risks. Like, these 4 or 5 years of bits. Um, Take risks, fail. You will learn. You will learn something about yourself, or you will learn something that you like or you don't like, or or what to focus on, what not to focus on. So take risks. Don't be afraid about failures. And what else can I advise you? Yeah, build connections. Yeah, and think about the impact that you can create. Like, always, as you're thinking about sort of what role to take, what project to do, what is next. I mean, the way I think about things is thinking about the impact that it creates. If it's solving a small problem for a small set of people, or if it's solving a small problem for a big set of people, what is it that kind of motivates you, and how it impacts the areas that you're motivated in.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sujay, for joining us today on our podcast. We hope you enjoyed reminiscing about college life. Thank you to our listeners as well for joining this podcast. Stay tuned for more such insightful episodes of Beyond Bits. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. It was
Thank you so
really
much.
fun.